Good morning. Continuing upon the theory, the concept of tragedy as given by Aristotle, today we are going to make an understanding of the elements that he proposed were integral to a tragedy. And these he suggested were six. Aristotle said that a tragedy essentially constitutes of a plot, character, thought, diction, spectacle, and song or melody. How then does he define plot? The most important of the elements of tragedy. Aristotle argues that among the six formative elements, the plot is the most important element. He writes this in his treatise, The Poetics. The plot is the underlying principle of tragedy. By plot, Aristotle means the arrangement of incidents, and incidents are action, and tragedy is the imitation of actions, both internal and external. So, we are going to try to understand what actually is plot. Plot is the arrangement of incidents. We all know that breaking apart from Plato, Aristotle suggested that a tragedy, a drama, is not just the imitation of what was real, what actually happened. In that, we would be just doing a documentation of history. What then the poet does? The poet takes the story as it had happened, but then he arranges the incidents in a way that brings out the philosophical purpose of purging humankind of the weaknesses. So he arranges the incidents, just as let us take the example of Oedipus. He arranges the incidents such that Oedipus is in the prime of his life. He is the king of Thebes. He has absolute power over his kingdom. He is regarded much, but then he falls down. The boy who was supposed to kill his father and marry his own mother is brought to situations. The incidents are arranged such that this boy, who could have been the tyrant of Thebes, just kills his father. This is from where the fall of his persona begins. He falls down. Further on, in the desire to do good to his people, he goes and marries his own mother. He doesn't know that she is the mother. But as the rule of the kingdom Thebes is given to him, so also is he given the queen of the previous king as his bride, and he takes it as an order of the state. So this sequencing of the incidents, that he would do this, thereafter will this happen, and this will happen, and this will happen, which will lead him to his final catastrophe, is the arrangement of incidents. And tragedy is not just the imitation of the internal and the external. In fact, it is of imitation of actions both. There are drives that go on in the mind of the character, of the protagonist, or as hero. as said by Aristotle. He is goaded by some feelings which are internal. He is driven by desire of doing something, but this desire that is innate in him will not culminate into a tragedy unless he externally also acts on it. So there can be no tragedy unless the action that goes on internally in the mind of the protagonist is not put in an external form. So, tragedy is not merely to imitate man, but to imitate man in action. Here is where we have to try to understand the importance of action. Let us take the example of Lear. King Lear could have been thinking too much against not giving the kingdom to his legitimate daughter, the daughter that had a legitimate claim upon his territory, Cordelia. He could have just contemplated on it and not acted upon depriving her from the rightful share of his kingdom. There would have been no tragedy. So a tragedy imitates man in action. That is, according to Aristotle, happiness consists in a certain kind of activity rather than in a certain quality of character. So it is not character. It was not the character of King Lear, because he had said, "Now, my dear Cordelia, say what you have to draw the most opportune share from my kingdom." So this quality of character, he was an old man, and who could act on his impulses of madness, caused partly due to his age and partly due to his mad love for his daughter Cordelia. But that would not have caused the tragedy to happen. The tragedy happens only because he performs a certain kind of activity. So, deprivation of Cordelia from the legitimate and lawful share in the kingdom is where his tragedy begins. And as David Dyches says, the way in which the action works itself out, the whole causal chain which leads to the final outcome. So, plot is the fatal working of destiny. And sometimes in later tragedies, it is the fatal working of the internal drives of a person. The second element that Aristotle said was integral to a tragedy is character. And by character, Aristotle meant not just the dramatic personage that embodied a particular trait, a particular flaw, but more importantly, character is the bent of mind. We all are a body that is governed by some external factors, but we are also a spiritual being, an intellectual being that is more driven by the bent of mind. In answering a question once, Aristotle said that a tragedy could be written without a character, but not without a plot. That means the plot that the poet has decided, the maker has sequenced the action which is erroneous and which will bring the downfall of the protagonist. This plotting is always the thing that guides a character to perform. That means whether it was you or I or Oedipus, given those circumstances, if we committed this action, we were bound to have the same consequence. So character is subordinate to plot. Though his overstatement on plot, he accepts that without action there cannot be a tragedy. If Dr. Faustus had only been goaded tremendously by the idea that he was only a doctor and but a man, and had not acted at the behest of Cornelius and Valdez, he would not have signed his soul to Satan. So you may have an impulse to do it, but unless the action, the first action, the action that is erroneous is not committed, there cannot be a tragedy. And the characters who perform this action are there to serve to advance the action of the story and not vice versa. And Aristotle then furthers the idea that what are the essentials of character? What should be the characters present in a character? First, he must be good. So the character must primarily be good. He can have a weakness that which overpowers his personality, deviates him from his original course of thought. He must be good. Oedipus does everything only because he is good at heart, better than the others. Good doesn't mean completely deprived of any vice, nor does it mean completely virtuous. It means that the person should himself be driven by a desire to do good. Oedipus leaves the kingdom where he had been adopted because he was good. He wanted to do good to the people, and never, even in his dreams, should it happen that he does harm to his father and marries his mother, that he leaves. He accepts the kingdom of Thebes and fights the monster Phoenix because he is good. The second essential is he must be appropriate. To be appropriate, it means that the character would work according to the age, the status, and the sex. So let us take the example of age. Here, I would like to say that King Lear is appropriate because he is working as would a man of 80. He is working in accordance to his age. He is 80, and it is appropriate for him to fly into rage when provoked. To be appropriate also means to work as in accordance to the status. Here we can take the example of Othello. Othello was a black and had suffered injustice at the hands of whites. So when he is given to understand by Iago that his wife is inconstant, he would act as he does. He killed his wife Desdemona, working on the status, the repression of a black against the whites. And to give an example of the age, to be appropriate according to age, we can take the example of Oedipus's daughter, Antigone. Antigone is just 13, and her brother has died in a strife against her own kingdom. And while she is living with her uncle Creon, and burial is denied to her brother, she would not allow that to happen. But she's a small child, and she's a girl. How can she give a burial to her brother who would be scavenged by the animals and birds of prey. So it is appropriate that she moves out with her play spade and throws sand upon her brother, thereby according a burial. This is appropriateness of character. Now we come to the third essential of character, that is, the characters must be lifelike. To be lifelike means to be given in to the strengths of character and to be given in to the weaknesses of character. Oedipus has the strength of character that he would face a monster if needs be. If it is required for him to cleanse his soul from that guilt, he would go on to meet the monster Phoenix that had spared none. But he is also given into the weakness that when he learns that he is the cause of tragedy, he would blind himself. The weakness to stay away from sin is too paramount in him. And the fourth, the essential of character as defined by Aristotle is the character must be consistent. Dr. Faustus has observed necromancy and has sold away his soul to Satan. The 11th hour strikes and Mephistopheles would be coming any time now to take away his soul. His two disciples offer to save him from this devil, but he refuses. He says that if I have done the crime, if I have committed the error, I must take the consequences myself. This is consistency. The character reveals the individual motivations of the characters in the play, what they want or don't want, and how they react to certain situations. And this is more important to Aristotle than thought, the third element of tragedy. Thought deals on a more universal level with reasoning and general truths. That is, universality of the impact of action. The general truth is whether Dr. Faustus would succumb to his overtowering ambition or we do. We all will meet with the same fate. So thought is the purpose in mind for which the tragedy is composed. And the fourth elements, that is diction, melodies, public songs, and spectacles, they are all pleasurable accessories. The diction means language. For a tragedy, the language must be in accordance to the sublime thought that the poet has decided to portray through the plot and through the character. In ancient times, because the stagecrafts were not very developed, so the spectacle were generated through the presence of the chorus. The chorus would create the environment, the storm, the conflict, which otherwise could not be portrayed. So the spectacle was a pleasurable device that launched through the audience into the environment that the action was taking place, and melody and song were needed to give a voice to the internal conflict which could not be staged for the audience. It also, melody and songs also helped in the introduction of the chief character, because he might not reveal himself. It was revealed through the help of the chorus that presented the melody and song for us to appreciate in what circumstance, internal and external, the plot was being developed and the characters were presenting the thought to the audience. We are also going to make an assessment, a full assessment of what is plot, which, because Aristotle has said, is the most powerful and the primary element of tragedy. So I shall deal with that in another separate lecture. Thank you for being with me. You can also give your suggestions in the comment box. And if there is any more explanation that you are requiring, you can also write that down. Thank you once again.